Hey yo, we're still quarantined. That's not funny, Stephanie. Anywho, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Stephanie. My bra strap is showing. Not cute. Keep it cute. Keep it cute. Oh God, on this side now too. Stop. I hate having big boobs. Hate it. Y'all that want your boob jobs, don't get them. I take that back. Yours are gonna be perky, so it's all good. I got off track. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like I was saying, if you're new here, hi, my name is Stephanie and I really love makeup. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the people that had gotten murdered in my parents' house. Plain and simple, no other way to say it. They were killed in the house that I grew up in and that my parents still currently live in. And then my grandchildren, what? You're not old, what day is it? Ugh. And the house that my children will be going to when they're little to see their grandparents. So yeah, this story is told from my point of view, from my family's point of view, but I will also give you some information from the real story about the real person himself. So yeah, if you'd like to hear the story about my life growing up in a house where people were brutally murdered, then just keep on watching. Okay, so I'm going to put on makeup as I talk. I'll kind of either leave it below or I'll try and say it every now, or say whatever. Why can't I talk? I can't talk. Anyway, okay, let's get started with it. Okay, so on the property that my parents live on now, on the property that I grew up on, there are two houses. My family farms, we are farmers, but before we started farming, my grandparents had a dairy. And that is what the business was during the time that this all happened. So we had a dairy, and there are two houses on the property, like I had said. There's a two-story house, and then my grandparents built a single... Oscar, stop! You hear scratching? That's Oscar. My grandparents had built a single-story house next to that, next to the two-story house, and that is where my dad and my two uncles and my grandma and grandpa lived, was in the single story. In the two-story lived two of our milkers, and one of them had his pregnant wife there as well. So there was three people living in the two-story house. The time of this would have taken place when my dad was in high school in the 70s. And excuse me while I put my face on. So the victims in the home, Miguel Vargas, Salvador Vargas, and Lourdes Meza, were all living in the two-story. And this murder took place on October 8th, 1978. So on October 6th, 1978, all three, Miguel, Salvador, and Lourdes, went to a, I guess you would call it like a yard sale or something like that. Basically just, someone's rummage and stuff. They went to a yard sale at a man's house named Robert Tyson. And at this yard sale, a man named Keith Daniel Williams offered to buy Miguel Vargas's car. So he told Miguel that he wanted to buy his car and he would buy it for $1,500. So right then and there, he wrote him a check for $1,500, a personal check, and he agreed with Miguel that he would wait to get the pink slip until the check cleared through the bank. Normal, right? Wrong. Robert Tyson his wife had told police that after Miguel, Salvador, and Lourdes left, Keith Williams was telling people, oh my god, I just got like blinded by my lights. Blinded by the light. Like a goose in the running of the night, blinded by the light. Anyway, Robert's wife had told police that Keith was saying right after Lourdes, Miguel, and Salvador left that he just wanted to kill them. He just wanted to kill them. He should have killed them. He wanted to. Apparently, he kept talking about their race, the Mexicans is what he said, and that he was planning to basically shoot them and take back the check. Like, that was his plan. Keith had told all this to Robert's wife, and he had also told her, like, I'm gonna need your husband to, like, back me up, you know? It's gonna need to be my freaking ride-along during all of this, you know? Which is just, like, casual, like, you know what? Yes. Use him to murder somebody. Take him with you. How fun. What? Who does that? People are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. As I'm sitting over here looking like freaking the Joker. So the yard sale was on the 6th. Keith had this all planned and was taking Robert Tyson with him, and they were going to carry it out Sunday evening, which was the 8th. October 8th, 1978. Now this is where my family ties into it, because when Keith and Robert arrived on our property, they didn't know which house was which, so they drove to my parents' house, my grandparents' house, and knocked on the door and said they were looking for Miguel, Salvador, and Lourdes. And, you know, back then, I guess, I don't know, even now, I'd be like, oh yeah, they're right next door. I don't think you really, when someone is, I don't know, seems normal, I guess you never know. That's a tough thing. But my grandpa pointed them next door, which is where they lived. And at the time, my grandparents were barbecuing with everybody. My dad remembers it was like him, you know, his brothers, my grandparents, and my dad's grandparents there. So it was a bunch of people. They were just having a family barbecue. I'm now using the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. So Keith Williams and Robert go next door. And at this time, the two males, so Salvador and the two men, Salvador and Miguel, they are brothers. Obviously, if you can tell that I've been saying the same last name, duh, Stephanie. Their uncle was there visiting. So Keith and Robert, come on in. So the uncle, his name is Leon Macias, and he says that he remembers them coming in. It was him, Lourdes, the two men, and then also the uncle Leon, his daughter, and her girlfriend were there too. And they were all sitting around the table discussing the sale. Eventually, Leon, the uncle, his daughter, and her girlfriend left, and it was just him, Lourdes, Salvador, Miguel, and then Keith and Robert. Salvador ended up going to bed. The uncle Leon stayed to translate more for Miguel since they were bilingual, and left telling Miguel he would come back in the morning to go with him to cash his check. So the next morning comes, and the uncle goes to knock on the door to go with his nephew to cash his check, and there's no answer. Doesn't think anything, just like maybe they overslept, maybe they left, maybe they didn't want to, I don't know. Doesn't investigate further and leaves. Well, he later finds out that they didn't show up for work either, which is bizarre because they always showed up for work and they were very hard workers in general. He finds out they didn't show up to their shift at the dairy, and come to find out, that night, Miguel was supposed to work the night shift, be a night milker, and he didn't show up for work that night either. After finding it suspicious that they both didn't show up to work on their shifts, the uncle returns to the house and finds Miguel and Salvador face down on the kitchen floor, shot to death, and Lourdes was nowhere to be found. And it turns out that she had been kidnapped and had very awful things done to her. I won't say the awful things, but she had awful things done to her and was also killed as well. Robert Tyson was a co-defendant, so he wasn't the main one that did all of it, but he did take part in it. He was given 3 25-year to life sentences for his part in the murders, while Keith Daniel Williams was given the death penalty for his part in planning and taking out the murders. Now, Keith Daniel Williams was the second California inmate to be executed by lethal injection. He was executed May 3rd, 1996. Apparently, he didn't have any last words, but this guy had a very great, juicy last meal. His last meal included fried pork chops, a baked potato with real butter, asparagus, salad with blue cheese dressing, apple pie, and whole milk. But he had nothing to say. No, I'm sorry, none of that. None of that. Like I said, he was sentenced to death and they charged him with murder, kidnap, robbery, and another R word. That's very triggering and sensitive to people, so I don't want to say it. But you can find what it is. So, Miguel and Salvador were shot in the back of the head, and that was brutal. All this was brutal. It took place in the kitchen. I'm not trying to laugh, oh my god. But it took place in the kitchen, and Lourdes, her body was found pretty far off from our house. It's very sad, and it's even more sad that, you know, they worked for us and, you know, they were good people. They lived in the house, they took care of things. My grandparents trusted them and they trusted my grandparents, and I think it's just sad that this all happened. It's terribly sad. It should never have happened. It happened for a stupid reason over a check, that he wanted the check back. I mean, this is probably deeper than the check, but you know, that's how it all kind of like originated. So that's kind of the background story. My dad remembers very clearly, my grandparents remember very clearly. It was an awful thing that happened. So I kind of want to get into growing up in the house and all about that. So I actually didn't find out about all of this that happened in my house until I was 18 years old. I am a very highly sensitive person. I'm very sensitive to stuff like that. I was always, it's my chair, I didn't toot it, I promise. Always as a kid growing up, I was very scared of everything. I always said there was monsters in my room. Funny how that works out. My parents never told me, you know what I mean? It's just, I know it's not something you tell a small child, obviously. Like I didn't need to find out about it at like age 10, but I feel like being older, I would have really liked for my parents to tell me, but I understand why they didn't. So I had found out through my ex-boyfriend, actually. His uncle was talking to me and he's like, oh, I remember when all that happened, you know, your poor grandpa and on the dairy, and it's just too close to home. And I'm like, wait, like, what? Like, I was confused. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, the murders? And I was like, murders? Like, I thought he was like telling me like my family murdered somebody. And I was like, the murders? And he's like, yeah, in the house that you live in? And I was like, huh, what? Like, you're telling me? Like, I am, like, ghost hunters was, like, my freaking jam. Like, I love scary movies, but I'm a scaredy cat. Like, what? I was, like, flipping out. So I literally, like, had a flip out. I went right home, stomped up to my parents, and I was like, how come you didn't tell me? And they were like, what? At first? And I was like, you didn't tell me. I went 18 years living not knowing this huge piece of information. And my mom was like, someone told you. And I was like, what? She's like, why would I tell you that? And I was like, I'm 18, I deserve to know. You know, and my brother is like freaking no emotion Noah over there, you know, and he's like, Stephanie, no one can tell you because you're freaking, you cry. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it's sad, okay? But, yeah, so, I mean, just, like, a lot of things made sense, I guess you could say. Like, there's always been little things that have happened in the house that have been, like, I don't know, I don't want to say sketchy, but, like, odd, you know, like knocking sounds. I even have a Snapchat that I took. I'll have to see if I can find it and insert it. Now this.
Now this.
But that one was like, I was trying to talk in the Snapchat and you just hear knocking in the background, stuff like that. When I was a little kid, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and like, my mom would always tell me my eyes play tricks on me, but like, you know, obviously that's probably not what was happening. I had a lot of dreams, weird dreams, like stuff like that. So yeah, I never saw any full body stuff. It was mainly just like a lot of, you know, out of the corners of your eyes and stuff like that. I truly believe that, you know, if Miguel, Salvador, and Lourdes their spirits were still, or are still at that house, they don't want to hurt anybody. Especially knowing my dad and who he is, I don't think that they would want to harm anybody or are harmful spirits at all. So I think that's why maybe nothing really happened. I think that they just are at peace and, you know, little things have happened. But also the house is like so old. It's been redone once or twice, I think, maybe once or twice. So it doesn't look the same as it did when all of that stuff took place. I don't know if any of my other family members have had experiences. They are really not the kind to be like into the paranormal. I'm more of that person that is more like, oh my God, I feel so bad. You know, like I cried when I found out because I was like, Mom, we should have cleansed the house. Like they suffered. Like I felt bad. I was like, I'm like that bitch. Been that bitch, still that bitch. I should ask them though and see what they have to say. My dad's gonna be like, no, because he's like tough guy, you know. So my brother got out of there and never came back, that's for sure. So I wonder if he saw anything. But yeah, crazy, huh? It's crazy to me that people do the things that they do. Out of rage, out of anger, there's something missing in their life if they have to, you know, resort to that, hurting people. So I've always been super interested in serial killers and death, no, not like in a weird way, interested in death, but like, you know, situations like that, I've always been super interested in, and I think it's just like, I don't know, the world, the universe, God, whoever telling me like, maybe you have a tie to it because of that. I mean, I'm definitely not like spiritually inclined, that's for sure. How did I forget to put highlight on? What is going on? She went and lost her mind. That's what she did. So I think really quick, I'll just give you guys the details of what I used on my face so you don't have to go down to the description box if you don't want to, but if you want to, you can like definitely go down there. So for my base, I used the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder, Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, and then the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow Foundation. Blush and bronzer came from the Benefit Cheek Leaders palette. I used Hoola and also a mixture of, this is California and Dandelion. And then of course for highlight, I used the Milk Makeup Flex Highlight in the shade Lit. Mascara. Mascara I used, where did the beach go? I used the It Cosmetics. What the heck? She gone. I don't know where I put it. Oh. For mascara, I used the It Cosmetics Lash Blowout, and then for my brows, I used the Benefit 3D Brow Tones and also the Benefit Goof Proof Brow Pencil. Oh my gosh, brow pencil. And then for lashes, I just used the Ardell Wispies, and then for my eyes, I used the Tati Beauty Volume 1 palette. That was my story and the background of what happened in the house that I grew up in. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another video with me, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace and love to the families always, and anybody that has gone through a tragedy like that, my heart goes out to you. I love you guys. Bye.